Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. You're listening to PHLY. I almost did it.
Almost.
Day 4, and I really was close to saying
you're going to do it at some point.
It really almost came out. You are listening to PHLY Flyers. That's right, PHLY. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening, afternoon, whatever you want to call it. For this game day, this phenomenal Philly Friday, we have hockey tonight, fam. Flyers, Rangers, rookie game up in Allentown. We are here to preview it for you and so much more. And with me to do that, as always, the one and only Charlie O'Connor. What's up, Chuck?
You know, Bill, it's great to be here. It's now been a week. This is, as I've been told,
Monday off, but a nice 4-day week, the way it should be.
Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
However, I've been told this is the last show of this week at PHLY of the inaugural week. So for everybody who's been along for the ride so far, thanks so much. Hopefully you've liked the content both on our show and then also on the website. It's not going to stop anytime soon, but definitely thanks to everyone who's been along for the ride with us thus far.
It has been an absolutely wild week. The attention, like in and out of the business, everyone's feedback has been incredible. But your jobs are not done yet, listeners. Thank you to everyone who has signed up for a Die Hard membership to this point. And if you haven't yet, what the hell are you waiting for? Get out and do it. I mean, you get the free shirt with the membership.
Yeah, I think next week will be the first week when one of my articles, and I will have others that will be free, but that'll be the first week where one of my articles is behind the Die Hard paywall, essentially, so you'll only be able to read it. I'm thinking right now it's going to be my very long season preview that I did every year for The Athletic. Have a couple other articles, obviously, in the works.
You writing a very long article, Chuck?
Yeah, I know. No. Shocking, right?
No. But the Die Hard membership is absolutely awesome. And something I found out like the other day, I just figured out about it. You get exclusive merch because I went on our merch store and bought a couple of T-shirts. But there's a hoodie I saw that isn't available. You need a Die Hard membership to get the hoodie. My mom has one. She signed up for the Die Hard. Thanks a lot, Mom. Shout out. I'm going to use her subscription so I can get the cool hoodie. Because it's just sick looking.
Amazing.
I kind of want it. But if you haven't got your Die Hard membership yet, I highly urge you to do it. It's all sorts of benefits. This is not just like a paywall subscription service. There's so much more to it. You have to check it out, allphly.com. But, you know, Charlie, it's game day. We're going to see the Flyers. We're going to see the Flyers, at least the rookies, take the ice for the first time since the end of last regular season. So I guess the biggest question on everyone's mind is, what did you think of that Birds game last night?
I honestly thought you were going to say the biggest question on everyone's mind is who's going to be the captain?
I was like thinking it, and I was too far in. I was like, no, I just got to get the show started.
Maybe somebody will wear the C. I don't know. It's possible. It'll be the only person who wears a C on their Flyers jersey this season. I wonder if
someone has a C tonight. No, they're not going to put like an honor. No,
it would be really funny though.
It would be. It would be. Or do what Dion's doing and put like leaders on there. Put an L on the
Is that what he's doing?
And D for dogs.
Oh well, or you could just have everyone on the team wearing sunglasses on the ice.
That'd be kind of sick. Can you imagine if hockey ever had a personality like Dion? I've been watching ESPN. Like I was watching the game day, all the game day stuff from ESPN today with like the McAfee show. The game day was there, and the first take was there. The previews, and they're interviewing Dion. And like, can you imagine if somebody had half the personality of him in hockey? Like the league would fold. They would fold just so they didn't have to deal with it. They'd be like, "Nah, we're going to start a new one without you." I think they did that like in the ninth, like. The beginning of the NHL is because every owner hated one of the other owners. So they folded the league that was and then started the NHL. Pretty sure I read that in the Down Goes Brown history of the NHL book. Yeah.
Well, it's like how I think it was Andrew Shaw this week was saying that like all of PK Subban's teammates hated him. And I just remember seeing that and being like, Andrew Shaw. So this is a guy who got suspended for saying homophobic things to a referee and also basically said it was Kyle Beach's fault that he got sexually assaulted. Like, honestly, I feel like that's kind of an endorsement of PK Subban when Andrew Shaw is saying that I didn't like him. Yeah, whatever.
But yeah, that Birds game last night, man. This is a shout out to all my friends still in the sports radio side of things or still covering the Eagles. Perfect day. For the takes. They won, so we're happy. But we don't like what we saw, so we're mad.
Yeah.
Perfect day for the takes.
I feel like, I don't know. it was, yes, I am a bit concerned about Jalen Hurts because, you know, he doesn't look like the Jalen Hurts yet from last year. He showed flashes. But, I mean, come on. They ran for like 300 yards and won the game.
That doesn't count, though. You have to pass and look good doing it.
But if they pass, then people will be saying they need to run more.
Oh, of course. Yeah, run the ball, Andy. What are we doing? But so that's listen. This is a Flyers show, but I often say the Eagles they're not a football team, they're not a sports franchise. They are our civic religion.
Oh yeah.
If you live in the Delaware Valley, you're an Eagles fan. So happy to be 2-0 after
Very
that.
happy to be 2-0.
That's
You
they
know,
don't
wins
ask
or
how,
wins.
they ask how many at
Wins
the
or
end
wins.
of the day. But I do want to get to the Flyers now. And with the rookie games, the rookie series that's going to be up in Allentown, they play tonight, Friday night, and they have a game tomorrow, I believe, at 5 up in the PPL Center.
Yes, correct.
It got me thinking back to the rookie game in 2011 against the Caps when they played. I think it was like their 5th one. Like when they started this series against the Capitals, they played them every year, and it was the year of okay. You know, Richards and Carter are gone. What did we bring in for them? And it was going to be our first look at Couturier and Shen. And the turnout for the game was like incredible. I remember it was when I first started covering the team, like halfway through 2010-11 is I think when I started with Bleacher Report as a blogger. And so that was like that offseason was really my first time like doing stuff.
It was a hell of an offseason.
It was absolutely, it was the Briz offseason. Like
Yeah.
it was just completely ridiculous. And I remember going to that rookie game. Turnout was incredible. I was like tailgating, and I just looked up at one point, and like a line around the corner at Wells Fargo Center before they opened the doors for rookie game in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. So we're still a hockey town, and obviously the way the last decade or so has gone has really taken away from some of that enthusiasm. But I think back to that game, and yes, we were all there to see Couturier and Shen. Like, we were told Braden Shen's the best player in the league, or the best player in the world, not yet in the league.
Yes.
That was the caveat they put on him. And Sean Couturier, it was like, oh, well, he might have gone first if he didn't get mono. You know, there's always that. Like, Mitch
would have been up there.
Yeah. But look, Couturier's had a hell of a career already, and it's not over. So, pretty good
Hope
draft
not.
pick there. Yeah, well, we'll see. And then I remember watching that game, and Matt Reed, you know, undrafted free agent out of Bemidji.
Bemidji State.
And my boy Harry Z, Zolarchuk.
Zolarchuk.
Those dudes like really stood out in that game. And then Reed ends up making the team out of camp. I think Harry Z made it out. Like he got called up after after about 5 games. He got called up. And I just wanted to ask you, looking at this roster, because we've spent this first week of PHLY Flyers talking about the dudes who we expect to make the team. Maybe they're not Couturier and Shen, but like Forster's probably making it. We're going to see Desnoyers at some point this year, whether he makes the team or it's a call up. Like we're going to see Emile Andre at some point, I would guess. If there's going to be that surprise, though, who would you like really pin it on? Because the more I read about Matt Brown, and he's just a camp invite. He's not even on an ELC the way they signed Matt Reed as a free agent out of college. He was already in the organization.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's not apples to apples, but Matt Brown seems to have a little bit more of a chance than your average, oh, yeah, we brought him in because we needed bodies.
Well, what I'll say about him, and he's a camp invite, so there's no guarantee he's ever going to get an entry-level contract. It was interesting this morning, so I was at camp in Voorhees for the morning skate before coming to the studio to record the show, and Matt Brown was actually on a power play, which is interesting because, granted, it may be a situation where J.R. Avon, who was expected to be playing, still isn't on the ice. He apparently has a lower body issue that happened, I think, the day before camp is what I heard. They're just trying to figure out the severity of that. But it's possible that he was the guy who they envisioned putting in that final spot on one of the power play units. There's obviously going to be 10 guys on the power play units. And maybe Brown is just a replacement. But it's interesting because, number one, he scored a lot of points at BU last year. Number two, he's older. He's 24 years old.
Yeah.
So in these kinds of games where you have a lot of younger guys on both sides, a lot of guys who are 18, 19 years old who aren't necessarily built yet to stand out in these kind of games unless they have super high-end skill, a 24-year-old can score some points because he's got an advantage over everybody else.
He's
and
a man.
He's a man, and
There's
these are teenagers
out there.
Exactly. So it would be interesting to me if Matt Brown does maybe surprise a little bit. He's a possibility. I know we've talked about him on the show a couple days now. Now we've had the show going for more than a few days about Adam Ginning. He's a guy where he may not stand out in the sense he's going to score 2 goals because that's just not his game, but he's on the first pair. They have him paired with Oliver Bonk, and Bonk's a guy who everybody's going to be paying attention to. It would not shock me, let's say, if Ginning actually looks better than Bonk, not because Ginning is a better prospect than Bonk, but because Ginning is he's just more advanced. He's physically developed, and Bonk is getting used to this like competition of I'm not playing just against junior kids anymore. I'm playing against some older people. So that wouldn't shock me if Ginning surprises. But Brown's interesting because he's getting an opportunity. He's a camp invite right now. He's getting to play on the power play. He's getting to play on the third line with Samu Tuamala. So he's got some talent there. If he were to score a couple goals this weekend, does the Flyers organization start to think, maybe we toss this guy in ELC and see what he can do in the minors this year? We'll see.
I always think it's, obviously you have to think big picture, number of contracts, number of guys you have, or, how many draft picks are we going to have going into next season? Do we really want to lock in certain commitments? But I love rolling the dice on guys like this. And I'm happy to see them get opportunity more than anything, but just the Flyers' luck, what it has been for 10 years. Don't they deserve like a diamond in the rough to just break out?
I remember they got, you mentioned Matt Reed. They got really lucky with him because I remember I was really starting to get into the weeds of really being a writer / analyst of the team back then. And I remember looking at the roster going into, and this was even after they made the Carter and Richards trades, and just looking at, I think it was Cap Geek at the time. It wasn't Cap Friendly. And looking at him being like, they're not going to get under the cap unless one of these guys on a cheap cap hit deal actually makes the team. And it was just like, well, I guess Matt Reed looked pretty good in Adirondack at the end of the season after they signed him. Maybe it has to be him. And I think they kind of were in a position where that was the only way the cap situation was going to work. And they just lucked out that he happened to be an actual NHL caliber player who scored 20 goals that year. If he stunk, I don't know what they would have done because they didn't have room.
It's crazy. They have been in cap trouble since the implementation of the cap.
Oh, yeah.
Except for a couple of years under Hextall where he cleared it all out. It's not like they had a ton.
No.
But
they immediately signed James Van Riemsdyk.
They immediately signed JVR, and then Chuck Fletcher comes in and squanders all of it just immediately.
Oh, boy.
Just tonight is the first of the rookie games, and we actually have the lineup for tonight. So I just wanted to take a look at that. And first thing that stood out to me, I think, is a pretty genius business move with 2 games and 2 nights. You have Tyson Forster going tonight. Emil Andre is a scratch. I would say they're the 2 headline guys.
Yeah, I would say so, especially because Forster is making the big. We're getting more into him later in the show, but he's making the big push. He's the favorite to make the team. Andre, I don't know if he has the second best chance because I think he's kind of around the same spot as Ginning, and also you have Denoye, who I think probably has a better chance than Andre of making the team. The thing with Andre is that people haven't really seen him. He's new
in terms of wanting to see somebody.
Exactly.
Forster, he's going to be a Flyer all intents and purposes.
Sure looks like it.
And Andre is just this one that we kind of just been waiting to see.
Yeah.
And he is, as we have the graphic, truly battling for a spot. He's in that doing Denoye and Ginning category of he can make it.
Yeah.
He's going to have to win it. He's going to have to beat somebody out. And maybe it's a tough decision that the front office is like, Sean Walker's just going to be on this team so he doesn't make it. Or, we're going to try to put him through waivers, see what happens.
Yeah.
It could go either way, and I'll understand either way. But Andre is that guy that I think headlining. I want to see Bobby Brink personally, just because I like him. But everybody in Allentown, if you were a Phantoms regular at the PPL Center, you've seen Brink. You've seen some of these guys. Andre's the fun new one.
Yeah, he's the new toy, and I was mildly surprised that he got scratched for the first game. I imagine he's going to play in game 2 on Saturday. I think that's a lock. But my guess is that most of the players are going to play in both games because they have 25 players at this camp. Now they have 24 healthy guys because it doesn't look like J.R. Afon's going to play, and 2 of them are goalies, so the 2 goalies are going to play. So basically what you end up with is there's going to be 4 healthy scratches for each of the games, which means that if you wanted to, you could have played Andre in both games. Like, for example, we were basically told by Ian LaPerriere yesterday after practice that Bobby Brink is going to play in both games because they want to see him now that he's healthy. They want to see a lot of him. They want to give him a lot of ice time, see how he handles it, because this is the real Bobby Brink as opposed to last season where they were getting the 70% Bobby Brink, and they want to see what the 100% Bobby Brink is. So I'm mildly surprised that Andre...
test. Like,
it is, to be sure.
You're healthy, you've been working out, you've been working on your skating. All right, let's see what happens when you have to go back-to-backs. Let's see how much work you really put in. Not to say, like, they're skeptical, but just this is how you test a guy. To be sure. Back-to-backs. Here you go.
So I was a little surprised Andre didn't get this game. My guess is that if I had to guess, it might be a situation where they want Andre to quarterback a power play, and they might have looked at it as, well, we'll have, because apparently, according to the lineups that I saw at practice today, it looks like Bonk is going to be quarterbacking one power play, Ethan Sampson is going to be quarterbacking the other. Now, my guess is maybe Sampson or Bonk. Maybe they're not going to play Bonk in both games. One of those 2 guys may sit on Saturday, and then you get Andre come in and he quarterbacks his own power play. That could happen. That said, I am still a little surprised about Andre not playing. I was expecting him to be in both.
Like, because if we're talking about, okay, we want to see a ton of Brink. Like, you expect Forster to play both games. The dudes who are in that, like, favorite to make it, like Forster, or truly battling, you would just think they would want as much opportunity as possible for those guys.
Yes.
Like, just let's see, unless they have their, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to, like, what is their thinking
it's
here?
It's such a minor thing in the grand, because if Andre then goes out,
that's what we do.
Yeah, if he goes out on Saturday and is dominant, then no one's going to care.
Yes,
but it's just a little bit interesting, and really, him and LJ Grans are the only 2 guys that are scratched that are relevant. You know, you have Mann, who was a 7th round pick this year. He's years away if he ever makes it, and then Sedley is whatever. So it's basically Grans and Andre. That said, there are more defensemen than forwards at this camp in terms of fitting everybody.
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder. So decisions have to be made. But yeah, there's still going to be more than enough viable prospects in this game. Line 1, we got Alexis Gendron, Elliot Desnoyers centering, and then Forster. Line 2, you've got a camp invite, but then you have Denver Barkey, and then you have Bobby Brink. So line 2 is looking interesting there with those 2 guys. Then you have Matt Brown, who we talked about. You have a camp invite, then Tuamal on line 3. And then line 4, actually, you've got Alex Chernick, who I really want to see. He was the 4th round pick for the Flyers this year, who we really didn't get to see much out of him at development camp. He got banged up. I'm excited to see what he can provide. And then Zayd Wisdom playing on the other wing there. Really, as we talked about yesterday, we really want to see him have a bounce back year after the way last year went for him, which didn't do a lot for his prospect development.
So just in terms of expectations for tonight, Charlie, you know, like Tyson Forster, if he does anything but go out and dominate, I'm oh man, should we be worried? No, but like, should we expect the guys who we believe are going to be NHLers this year, Forster, Bonk maybe, or not Bonk, Brink maybe.
Yeah.
Like some of these dudes, Andre, should we expect to see them go out and be head and shoulders above most of everyone else if they're actually in this rookie game, you know, advanced to the point where they could play in the NHL this year? Desnoyers.
You know what? To be honest, yeah. And it's not that if Tyson Forster doesn't score a goal that he's a bust and he sucks.
Sometimes you don't score.
Yeah, sometimes you don't score. But I do think that you want these guys to stand out in some form or another. And it's not even, let's say one of these guys that we're looking at, that he struggles. If that happens, it doesn't mean that he's going to struggle all year. It just might not bode well for them making the team out of camp. Because I think back to last year's rookie games. Noah Cates, dominant. You had, I believe, Desnoyers was impressive. Like I'll go back through my notes, but the guy who sticks in my head is Noah Cates, is that he went out there and it was just every shift, he was noticeable, he was doing something right. And you watch these games and you just said to yourself, there's no way he's not on this team. And I want to have that same feeling watching Tyson Forrester, because that's the position that he's kind of put himself in, where he's in a lot of ways, and I noted this in my article from yesterday about Forrester. I noted this directly to Ian LaPerriere when we talked to him yesterday. He's kind of following the Noah Cates path, where he gets called up at the end of the year, looks really good in the NHL, has a great summer, and now he's being presented as the favorite out of the prospects to make the team. Noah Cates, he met that challenge. He rose to meet that challenge. I want to see Tyson Forrester rise to meet that challenge. And I want to see Bobby Brink be an offensive weapon, be extremely dangerous looking on the power play. I want to see Denoye making those little plays kind of like Cates did at last year's rookie games. I want to see Andre when he gets in. I want to see him being physical, being assertive, making smart passes, being active in the offensive zone. I want to see Jennings hitting people. I want to see him cleaning the porch in the defensive zone. Like, these guys who are close, I want to see them show why they're close. And if they don't show it, it doesn't mean they're destined to be a bust. It doesn't mean they're destined not to make the team, but it does mean that maybe they're not in the frame of mind that's going to allow them to make a real push at this camp to make this team.
You know, we talk about Tyson Forster, favorite to make the team. Bobby Brink, maybe a little bit of an underdog.
Yeah.
Well, whether you're betting on favorites or underdogs, you should do it at DraftKings, because football is back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? It's DraftKings Sportsbook, an official betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on the action this season, though. Like, you always see, oh, well, great, new customers. I've had DraftKings for years. How does that help me? No one's getting left behind by DraftKings because every customer, all DraftKings users, can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. If there is football action, you have an offer from DraftKings. So get in on NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code PHLY to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code PHLY. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in ONT. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football. Terms for eligibility apply. Terms and responsible. Let me try that again. Terms for eligibility, terms and responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. All right, so step back on Friday.
Yeah. You were rolling really well for a while.
I know, it was going too well.
Yeah.
It's like the Flyers, man. As soon as things start going too well, you just know one of your favorite players on the team is going to be out inexplicably for 6 months.
You just got in your own head a little bit.
I was feeling it. You can't feel the victory before it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to finish the game.
Got to wait for the final whistle.
Unable to finish the game there, but decent, not bad. We'll get it together again for Monday. We're talking about this rookie game, but we've been harping on the prospects all week because that's what's going right now, and 2, that's what matters in the rebuild.
Sure.
Yes, when the games start, we will be focusing on the day in, day out of the Philadelphia Flyers who are actually at the NHL level. But that hasn't happened yet, and as this rebuild gets going, what matters is the future, and we've been looking towards that. And in the spirit of that, you had a conversation with Brent Flahr breaking down your top 20 list, the one you and Alex Appleyard put together that launched, it came out the opening day of allphly.com, so it was great. And you've had the opportunity to speak to Flahr each of the last few years, right?
Where we usually do it twice a year. We have our September list, which is basically our summer list after the draft, and then we have one midway through the season. We usually do it sometime around the All-Star break, just to get an idea of like how the players are doing during their developmental year, how things have changed, who's broken out, who's taken a step back. And thankfully, Brent Flahr has always been willing to speak with us pretty much ever since he took the job. And while there was some question in the immediate aftermath of Chuck Fletcher getting let go, if Flahr was going to stick around, it appears he will stick around. I think he has a good relationship with Danny Briere, and he was willing to sit down. And by sit down, I mean talk on the phone. Was willing to sit down with us to talk through the top 20 ranking. And I hope you checked out those articles. They're at allphly.com. Definitely take a look. They're all free, so feel free to check them out. But yeah, we went through all 20, and obviously we kicked it off with Matvei Michkov. Here we go.
Check.
There we go. Another reference.
Yep.
The main thing that I asked him about Michkov, and I did, when we had the interview, I did ask him about, because it was, when I spoke with him, he was still getting buried at SCA and not getting to play, and I asked him about that, and he basically said, I'm sorry, I can't comment, which makes sense, because he certainly doesn't want to put his prospect in an even worse position than he was already in terms of not playing, when he's got the NHL team saying you should play him more, and then they just say, well, screw you, now we're never going to play him.
Yeah.
So Brett understandably was like, nah, I'm not even going to go there. But what he did answer questions about was this idea of Michkov playing center. Because for people who've been on social media, who are active in Flyers Twitter, during the preseason with SCA before he was loaned to Sochi, Michkov played a bit of center, and Michkov said that he's always wanted to try this. He would like the idea of testing himself out at center, and he looked pretty good at center. Now at Sochi, he's back on the wing. So I asked Brent, basically, is this something that you guys are on board with? Is this something that you guys were part of? Did you guys take him with the assumption that, hey, maybe he could be a center? And Flahr made it pretty clear that, nah, this is a Michkov thing. This isn't an us thing.
And we know how desperate they are for centers. Like last year, they converted Noah Cates, and he,
did pretty well.
After Kevin Hayes was after the coach was like, he's not even a center. It's like, well, really? Because
he's been a center for a decade.
That's what he is. Yeah. And Sean Couturier's not there. Morgan Frost, we weren't sure if he's a winger or center. Noah Cates became that center. And, they drafted Gauthier as a wing. And it's, all right, he's going to play some center at college. We'll see how it works out. Yeah. And looks like he started out pretty well, but in World Championships, he was back on the wing. So we don't really have it. So, the guy who could be a superstar, let's put him in the middle of the ice, see how it goes. It's worth a shot. I was really impressed with reading this, how open Flahr is about what he thinks guys' ceilings are and what they need to work on. When just talking about Michkov, dude has superstar potential, and he just goes, I just see him as a wing. And it's not like he's burying him or anything, but I don't really think that's what he's going to be here.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine opinion. I just really appreciated that throughout this interview, so definitely check it out. He's very forthcoming about what he believes guys' ceilings and roles will ultimately be. One of those being someone we've talked a lot about in these first couple days, Elliot Desnoyers. Because, man, when you just see the numbers and you see the way he plays the game, very excited. What stood out to you about what Flahr said about Desnoyers?
Well, I think one thing, and this just speaks to, understandably, fans are, playing around with the roster, looking at, okay, who's going to make the team? How's everybody going to fit? What's the cap situation and everything like that? Desnoyers is not going to make this team unless he's one of the 12 forwards that's going to be in the starting lineup for game one.
Yeah.
It's not like he's going to make the team as a 13th. It's not like he's going to make the team as a guy who will play 2 games and then sit for 2 games and then play a game and sit. No, they want him playing. So if Desnoyers is going to make this team, he's going to need to bang the door down, and he's going to have to beat out guys. And I'm not saying that they're going to waive Nick Delorier. They won't. But he's going to have to, push a Nick Delorier or push someone who we have penciled in on that fourth line into a press box role, at least for a bit, because we need to get Elliot Desnoyers in this lineup. And the thing that helps his case is that he is versatile, is that he can play center. He played center for the bulk of his AHL season last year and did quite well in that spot, but he can also play wing easily. So he can fit into a lot of different spots. Compare that to someone like Forrester, who he's a natural right wing, Can he play left? Sure. But I have a feeling that if he makes a team, they're going to want him while he's adjusting to the NHL level to play his best position. Same thing with Bobby Brink, also a natural right wing. Denoyer, they can sort of put anywhere because that's his calling card. He's versatile. He's potentially the next Scott Lawton, and that's Scott Lawton's thing, is that he can play anywhere and play in any line, in any role. He can be on the power play, he can be on the penalty kill, he can do whatever. I think that's the way they view Denoyer. So Flahr was open that he's not going to be making the team as a part-time guy. If he makes a team, he's making the team as an every night player.
I just, we went back to 2011 to start the show, but now I want to go back to 2012, I think is when Lawton was drafted.
Yes, it was.
Can you imagine 10 years later, the next Scott Lawton is actually a very good thing to say about a guy?
Yeah, right.
Like that's praise now, because he got the tryout and it was the shortened season, so it wasn't even like the 10-game tryout before they sent him back to juniors. Lawton, it was like 5, and they're like, oh yeah, you got to go back.
Yeah.
And where we've come with him, it's. Yeah, if they're going to put a letter on someone, it's Scott Lawton. Like, he's the only one who had a letter on his jersey last year.
Yeah.
And I've always been skeptical, like the way he played. And now it's, I don't know what role it would be, but if I was a coach, Scott Lawton he'd have a spot.
Yeah.
He'd always have
around.
a spot. And that's what seems to be the consensus about Desnoyers. And I think LaPerriere who you also spoke to, kind of echoed those sentiments about Desnoyers.
Yeah, he basically said yesterday, and I included this in the notes section of my article on Forrester, which we'll get to in the next segment. He basically said, for me, the closest kid, detail-wise and maturity-wise, to being an NHLer, it's Desi. I think he's the closest. And basically, LaPerriere made it clear that doesn't mean Denoyer is making the team. That doesn't mean he is the favorite above guys like Forrester, because the point that LaPerriere made is that just because he has the details and because he has the maturity doesn't mean he's physically ready yet. It doesn't mean that when he hits the preseason games where it's pretty much all pros that he's not still getting beaten around and knocked around and he can't hang. It's possible. That said, he was in the NHL for a little bit last year, didn't look totally out of place, so I think he's in that realm. That said, we're talking about a guy who the coaches love, people in the organization love, and they're going to be giving him opportunities, I really think, to really hammer out a role here. And whether he does it or not, it's just going to come down to how he performs. We spoke with Denoyer today, and he was open about the fact that, look, I have an opportunity, I feel ready, but in the end, I'm the one who's going to decide whether I make this team or not by how I play.
Oh, man, I really like this kid. I really, really am rooting for this guy. But just back to your conversations with Brent Flahr for a minute. Some of the, I guess, Bonk, not a lesser known, but, Igor Zavargin, the goalie they drafted, some interesting notes on him.
Yeah, one thing that, and I didn't know this because we didn't talk much to Flahr after the draft, or Briere for that matter, about this pick. And this was the goalie they took in the 3rd round after they had already taken Bjarnason, and they were just high enough on this guy that they just said, screw it. He's high enough on our board. Let's just take another goalie. Why not? Well, I believe the way you pronounce his name is Zavragin.
Zavragin.
I think.
That's dope.
He is apparently, according to Brent Flahr, he is like the understudy to Nikolai Hobby-Bullen, that basically he has kind of been taken under Hobby-Bullen's wing, which is pretty neat.
Is he sitting there like talking to himself and making crazy facial tics?
I mean, if he does, that would be amazing.
It would be.
I mean, love goalies with personality.
Yes, certainly.
But it's pretty cool that, this is a guy who, Hobby-Bullen, I mean, I don't think he's a Hall of Fame goalie, but he was a really good goalie for a long time. He's a hell of a goalie. He
won a cup. He was freaking awesome.
Yeah, he was a really good goalie. And, this is a situation where if he can learn, if this prospect, this relatively unknown prospect, can learn from one of the better goalies of that era, I think that's nothing but a good thing.
It definitely doesn't hurt. What were some of your other biggest takeaways from the Brent Flahr thing?
I think just you're definitely seeing Flahr speaking about these guys with the knowledge that this is a rebuild. It all kind of
seems like he's everyone is. I won't say a weight off their shoulders, but they're just everyone seems more free.
Yeah,
we're rebuilding because it's so obvious, but they refuse to acknowledge that they needed to, and then they refuse to say the word. And finally, now everyone's like, we are building to the future. So all of our thoughts about these guys is, what is this going to be, in the Mishkov time frame, basically. It's, okay, when Mishkov gets here, what are we going to have around him?
Exactly. And I think it's just one thing about Flahr, and I think this was rumored a little bit, but you never know because Flahr was so tied to Chuck. Because, I mean, they've been tight. They were together in Minnesota. I believe they got to know each other in Florida, which was basically Fletcher's first job. So they've been joined at the hip for a while. Flair's always been Fletcher's draft and prospect guy. But there had always been kind of rumblings that like Flahr was more open to the idea that this team needed to rebuild maybe than Fletcher was.
Because he's not dumb.
Well, and also, and like, I don't think Chuck is a dumb guy.
I know.
That said,
he went to Harvard.
Well,
I
no,
know.
But I think
Ivy League people all stick together.
But what I think Fletcher knew on some level, God damn it, on some level, I think Fletcher realized that, look, like, if we rebuild, I'm not going to be the guy rebuilding. So it was a little bit of self-preservation to be like, no, we don't need to rebuild. Well, no, my plan will work. I swear.
It's common sense to think, okay, everyone's frustrated with Ron Hextall, mostly because of his personality, but also because this thing doesn't seem to be moving forward. We're just stuck in neutral.
Yeah.
And like, they came before Fletcher even gets hired. You have, I think, Dave Scott being like, bias for action. We're going to do stuff.
Yep.
So it was his job to do stuff.
Yeah.
Some of it turned out to be dumb as hell.
Yep.
But like, he did stuff.
He did stuff. It didn't work.
If you're going to reverse course, you got to have the frame of mind like, okay, I was brought in here to do this. If they're going to do something else, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, it ain't going to be me.
It's not going to be me.
It ain't going to be me.
That's not how sports work.
Exactly. So I think Fletcher maybe if you, and I wouldn't know this, but like maybe if you hook Chuck Fletcher up to a lie detector, he might have agreed that, yeah, this team probably needs to rebuild, but guess what? I like being employed, and if they're rebuilding, I ain't going to do it. I'm going to get fired, so I'm going to keep saying we don't have to rebuild.
And Comcast doesn't understand because they don't know how to run a hockey team.
Exactly.
So it was like, no, we want to fill the building, go win. It's like, well, we don't have any good players, so I can't. The good ones we do have keep dropping dead.
Basically.
So I don't see how we can possibly win.
The point I'm making, though, is that I got the sense that you get the sense the fact that Brent Flahr is still here, that tells me that he is on board with the idea of a rebuild and maybe was on board with the idea of a rebuild even before Chuck Fletcher was let go as GM. Because I can't imagine, like, they were joined at the hip, and if Brent Flahr was, like, for example, Ron Hextall and Chris Pryor, they have been joined at the hip. Chris Pryor was gone with Ron Hextall.
Yeah.
The fact that Chuck Fletcher got let go and they didn't immediately fire Brent, that tells me that they while it's not like Brent Flahr was being disloyal to Chuck Fletcher, I'm sure they are still very close as friends, but it tells me that Briere and the rest of the people coming in knew that Brent was going to be on board with this change of direction.
And like, leading up to the draft, because it's late in the year where they let Chuck Fletcher go, the work for the draft is being done and is completed. Like, we're going to hire someone and be like, well, start. The draft's in a month. Good luck.
That's absolutely true. Like, but they easily could have let him go after the draft.
And the thinking, I think we even talked about it at the time, is, all right, yeah, he's still here now because like we need someone to run the draft.
Right.
He's still here. And so that kind of gives you the idea that he was on board or got on board with the idea that, I need to start over. So I'm glad you got to talk to him. Really happy with some of his answers and the forthcomingness. It was really good. So I hope everyone goes and checks that out at allphly.com.
What else should they check out, Bill?
The LePerriere article about Tyson Forster.
I always thought I was leading you into a read.
Oh, yeah, we are going to do that, actually. And if you're looking to check stuff out on the old internet, the World Wide Web, you should check out FOCO. Because FOCO has the absolute best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. It's football and tailgating season. It's getting chilly out there, man. I think it was a little colder than people expected at the Eagles game last night.
It's like 57 degrees this morning, which is gorgeous weather in the sun.
A little bit of frost.
Kind of loved it.
It was a little chilly out there.
Was it Morgan Frost?
Oh. Well. So if you need some of that cold weather gear, some of that great team apparel, you can get it at FOCO, whether it's overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, everything you need for a game, whether you're looking for team apparel or some accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items. FOCO has you covered because FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in the description of the show. And for all non-presale items, use promo code PHLY for 10% off. That's FOCO. Check it out. Pretty great stuff. All right, now we can get to the good job queuing that up, Chuck.
Yeah, I tried. You didn't quite like. I tried to throw you a softball, and
I was doing it in time in my head. I was like, we probably have a few more minutes before I need to do this, but no, that was the time to do it. So I want to get to that your article on Tyson Foerster. We've spent a lot of time talking about him this week because he's the favorite to make the team out of all the rookies who are in camp right now. We loved what we saw out of him. I mean, when the coach who, it's not like he's mean all the time, but it seems as if he's a critical guy. When
John Tortorella critical?
When John Tortorella
never
is saying, like, in the season, I have to back up of what I think of. Like, I am maybe putting unrealistic expectations on this dude. He's penciled in my head in the lineup for next year. I have to take a step back. When John Tortorella is saying this, I think we have a right to be a little excited about the possibility of him making the team. And Ian LePerriere agrees. Yes, Lappy. We had a lot of comments yesterday that were like, I forgot Lappy was still
I can't believe he's still here.
He's still here, man. Ian LePerriere is going to outlast all of us.
He's the ultimate survivor.
Yes. He has survived like 4 different regimes now. I mean, not to mention 2 pucks to the face.
Well, and then there's the fact that, like, he was objectively a terrible penalty kill coach, and somehow they kept him, and now he's like revamped himself as an AHL head coach, I guess. And honestly, the Phantoms were decent last year,
good.
So he's getting better. The first year, I was like, this is not working.
This is what we're doing?
This is not working. Last year, it seems like he's building good relationships with his players. It seems like he's getting a handle on this more, so that's good to say.
While the results, and I don't need to stick up for Ian LePerriere here, we have go in our archives.
Oh yeah, I've been very critical of Ian.
Hundreds of episodes of the old Broad Street Hockey where we're criticizing Ian LePerriere. That said, with the benefit of hindsight, those teams were bad.
Yeah, they were bad.
While the results he got from the penalty kill were bad, so too was the team. The organization as a whole. So maybe some of the criticism was, if not unwarranted, a little more than it should have been. Also, it was bad.
It was bad. It was legitimately poorly run.
The thing I'll always think about of that era is when the players on the Senators are in the Uber and they get recorded criticizing their coach and how bad his strategy is.
And the Flyers were worse.
And how bad their penalty kill is. And the only team that's worse is the Flyers.
God.
That is the encapsulation of that era. But anyway, we
deserve medals for living through this shit.
Just thinking back, like I was thinking like to that 2011 rookie game again. College-aged me. I'm mostly there to crush beers, but I'm taking notes too. I had a little notepad.
Love that for you, Bill.
I had a little notepad.
You knew where this was going.
Yeah. I'm glad time travel doesn't exist, because like a year and a half ago, I would have gone back to that college-age kid and been like, do something else. Just find something else. Do not make hockey your niche. And glad I did, because
you're here.
Seems to have worked out. But like, damn, man, what we have been through with this goddamn team.
It's pretty
ridiculous.
Wild.
But anyway, LePerriere echoes the sentiment that, Tyson Foerster making this team, he's not going to get a chance to coach him, which selfishly he wishes he could. But
he coached him last year. He knows him. He knows him, but this season,
he also has the distinction of he called Noah Cates last year.
Sure did.
He predicted Noah Cates would not be with the Phantoms. He would be with the Flyers. Lo and behold, we saw Noah Cates. Really happy with how he turned out. He predicts the same for Tyson Foerster.
Yeah, and I think it's just setting it up for Foerster. We talked about on I think it was Wednesday show or Thursday show, or maybe both shows, about how Tyson Foerster is very clearly the favorite to make the team out of all the prospects. This just cemented that. This is a guy who was his coach pretty much all of last year, and he basically said, yeah, he ain't coming back to Lehigh. Aside from this rookie game doubleheader, he'll obviously be in Lehigh, but Lappy believes that his time coaching Tyson Forrester is done, that Tyson Forrester will be in the NHL at the end of camp. And I think part of it too, it's not just what he saw last year in the AHL. It's not just what he saw in the NHL, because Lappy basically said, look, we watch all these NHL games. When our kids get called up, we want to see how they do. We really care about these kids. And I fully believe that. You know, whatever you'll say about Ian LaPerriere's coaching ability, like, he does care about his players, and I think that is important.
He's got that emotional intelligence.
No, he does. He does care about his players. He connects with them, most of them, I would say. And I believe he does really care about somebody like Tyson Forrester. Was really excited to see him excel in the NHL during that 8-game stint. But I think a big thing for Lappy, and a big reason why there's so much internal hype around Tyson Forrester going into this camp, is that Forrester basically spent the entire summer in Philly. He lived with Joel Farabee, which I'm very excited to talk to Joel Farabee at main camp to hear about how that went. Because they were, I mean, I follow them both on Instagram.
So ridiculous.
I follow them both on Instagram. They were going fishing like every weekend. They were holding up like the Tinder pics with them holding up fish.
Just the absolute, like, they are all parrot heads. It's like what they are. Like, we're just going to drink and fish, play some hot. Like, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. They are living their best lives all the time.
God. But I really want to hear about how that went, because what I gather is that Joel Farabee let more than Tyson Forrester stay at his place. Like, basically everybody who was coming in and out of town, he was letting them crash. So I can't wait to hear about that. However, Tyson Forrester, aside from fishing and hanging out with Joel Farabee, was also basically at the training facility pretty much every day. He has been working his ass off.
They're saying he's in great shape.
Best shape of his life.
Oh, Christ.
No, he's...
That's the last thing I want to hear.
Essentially, though, he did everything that the organization wanted him to do this summer to put himself in position to make this team. And I want to read the quote that Lappy gave. It's at the end of the column, but it's a really good quote. And he basically said, they say control what you can control, and he did. He trained like an animal all summer. He stayed here. He did everything right. So he can go to bed at night and say, I did everything I can. Now I've got a lot of work in front of me, but I did all the work this summer. I'm ready to go. And I think in a lot of ways, the people in the organization, they want to see him get rewarded. They're not going to give him the job. He's got to earn it. But they want to see Forrester earn his way onto this team, because it shows everybody else, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do if you want to make the team. Do everything we tell you to do. Stay for the summer. Work your tail off in the gym. You know, transform your body into a pro-level body, and then go out there and camp, perform well, and you'll make this team. I think they want Forrester to be an example to everybody else as to, this is what you got to do to be a Flyer.
Like, the hype of him making this team, maybe Provorov, you know, like, Konechny knocked the door down and he made it. But it was like, yeah, we'll see. You know, maybe another year, but maybe we'll see. Sanheim was always a we'll see thing until it was like finally, he made it. And it was like, yeah, we'll see if he plays.
Yeah, and then he bounced. He got sent down, came back up.
Like York last year didn't make it. And it was like, no, he has to kick it down. Oscar Lindblom, Morgan Frost. I cannot remember, maybe since Giroux, a dude with this sort of hype to make that, like Noah Cates last year, but it was, he's going to make it.
He just wasn't as excited.
No, he's going to make it. He's going to be a third liner, you know?
Exactly,
no, you've been a fan of Cates, but it's just like, he's going to make it, and he's going to be a role player.
Exactly.
Like Tyson Forster's going to make it and maybe be playing with Konechny and Couturier at some point, you know?
Yeah.
I can't remember a dude with this sort of hype. It kind of feels like he has to make it. When the coach, guys in the organization are like, oh no, he's NHL ready. Like, it's to the point where he has to almost.
Well, again, this is why I want to see him play well in these rookie games, because I want to see him justify. And it's hard to say hype because, number one, like, how many people are still actually covering this hockey team? So is there really that
like
much
you
hype?
And Jordan Hall, and that's it.
Right. And I know the Inquirer will eventually hire someone to replace Gianna, who's taking another position covering the NFL. But right now there ain't that many people covering this team. So this ain't the Eagle. So hype is a a weird word to say. But I do think that among the people that care about this team, there is an expectation that Tyson Forrester is going to make it. And it does remind me a little bit of Provorov, where the year, because he didn't make the team his first year after he was drafted, the second year he came to camp, there was an expectation, I think, given just how good he looked in Brandon and the fact that he had really checked every single box. I think there was an expectation that he was going to make it. I think there's a similar expectation with Forrester.
And it was like with Provorov, it was like the year before. Yeah, I mean, he could have. We could have done it.
And I think also it was just the fact that who do they have on that defense aside from Ghost?
That was it. There was no else. There was nobody.
It's not like the competition was fierce.
Like, we don't have 6. Like, he has to make it, and we still might not have 6. So that was. It's very exciting just to have this, and it's. Again, it's a first. It's not, it's not Michkov, it's not Gauthier,
no.
But it's a first rounder at least.
Yeah,
and it's a dude who we saw who contributed offensively right away. That's exciting to me. Like, we're gonna have a dude who it's not gonna take a Charlie O'Connor level eye watching.
Well, thank you, Bill.
No, listen. I learned as much about hockey from your early writing, your blogs where you're showing the clips of Sean Couturier in the neutral zone, as I did from like coaches I had playing growing up. So you don't need that level eye to see Tyson Forster score 18 goals. That's fun.
Oh, to be sure.
That's actually what we're going to see, hopefully.
And I think another reason why fans, because Forster is, I wouldn't call him, a super popular player because he hasn't played. People don't fully know what he's going to be. But particularly of the online section, I think he's a popular prospect. And I think one of the reasons why he is, truthfully, is just because for years, for years, people were screaming, get a guy who can shoot and who can score goals. And while since they've taken Forster, they've taken more guys like that.
Yeah, that's all they have now.
Like Tuamala was a shooter, Gauthier's a shooter, Michkov's more of a goal scorer than a shooter, but he's just awesome all around. Forster was the first guy where people just kind of were like, thank you. You finally listened to us. You finally got someone who doesn't pass all the time, who will just put the damn puck into the net. And I think there's an excitement level, even though now he's not the only one, he was the first one, and people really want to see that guy.
Now it's just like, oh, could really use Jake or G.
Yeah, right? Maybe we need a playmaker now.
We had like 2 of the best passers in the league for 10 years. No one to pass to.
You gave them Michael Raffle.
Yeah, Michael Raffle. Here you go. And now it's like, oh man. Hopefully Morgan Frost can really step up. We need someone who can make some plays. But I think the gist of this is it takes a lot of hard work to make this team. You have to put in the work, and it can be stressful. You know what shouldn't be stressful?
What's that, Bill?
Buying tickets to your favorite events. Buying tickets to your favorite events should never be stressful, and that's where Game Time comes into play. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. Killer deals, last-minute tickets, and the best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have, because Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. I was telling you how much I enjoy going to wrestling, live wrestling. It's like live music for Charlie.
Yeah,
it's just one of my happy places.
Yeah, absolutely.
AEW's coming to town in about a month. I'm like, oh man, I want to get on these tickets. I want to get the right seats. I'm like, you know what? I don't have to plan a month ahead. I don't have to see if my friends have something to do in October when I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to I don't know what I'm doing tonight. Let alone a month from now. I can just wait because Game Time will be there for me. They are the place for last minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You will make money on the transaction. That's how confident they are that they are the absolute best. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today for last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. You know what else is a guarantee? No, I actually don't have anything. No, you know what else is a
What else is a
guarantee?
guarantee, Bill?
Babcock being an asshole.
Oh, man.
We talked about this a little
Yikes.
bit the other day, but it really bears repeating now because like the NHLPA is involved in this investigation into the story, rumor, whatever it might be. That
the spit and
Mike
chicklets. Paul
Mike
Bissonnette.
Babcock is asking for his players' phones, going through their photo albums, saying, I want to see what kind of person you are. Now, the tone and context of this, depending on who is talking about it, is up for debate. So that's why there's an investigation. But there is a chance that Mike Babcock, before he coaches a game in Columbus, is fired. And it
Wild.
is the funniest shit in the world to me, Charlie, because this is... I don't even care to comment on him specifically. I don't know Mike Babcock. He's never coached the Flyers. All I do know is dudes who have won with him, like, Bill Belichick's an asshole. But guys who have won with him speak very highly of him.
Yeah.
Like, you'll hear funny stories about how he busts balls, but they're like, oh no, he's awesome. And it's like guys who have had Hall of Fame careers under Mike Babcock are like, maybe not. Like, this is the retread, and the Flyers are guilty of it as much as anyone. Like, have an original thought, hockey. Don't have the guy who coached the Red Wings in the early 2000s. Have the next Mike Babcock. Like, come up with an original idea, because your chances of success are the same. Like, the number of coaches who have won in more than one place, real low. Real low.
Yeah.
This is where hockey culture, and listen, there's all sorts of problems with it, but just the idea that, well, we need a coach with experience. All right, well, what happens when this group of coaches with experiences are all dead?
There's a
will the
distinct
league
lack-
fold?
there's a
Will
lack
there
of
be no more
creativity.
coaches?
Total lack of creativity. And that
None.
it's a problem. It's a real problem. But this Babcock thing is truly fascinating. Basically, the newest update is that when it first broke, Columbus kind of got out in front of it to a degree. Well, I wouldn't say out in front of it. They responded. But basically, they responded and they said, we've looked into this. Babcock claimed that it's all innocent. It's all just, to bond with the players. But the big thing was that Boone Jenner, the captain of the team, basically said, yes, he did ask, but I didn't take it in a bad way. And it looked like the story might die there. But what came out last night, according to Elliot Friedman, is that in the process of this NHLPA investigation of the whole thing, that some of the younger Columbus players basically said, yeah, Boone might not have taken it a bad way, but we thought it was kind of weird. And now it's getting to be a thing again where you have, I believe it was Darren Dreger this morning, basically was not willing to rule out the possibility of Mike Babcock not remaining the Columbus Blue Jackets head coach. It's, which would be wild if he never actually coaches.
He doesn't coach a preseason game.
He's done before camp even starts. So the thing with this hire, and again, this speaks to what you were saying kind of about the lack of creativity. And I'm generally speaking high on Jarmo Kekalainen as a GM. I think he's a smart guy. I think he drafts well. I think he's didn't love his this offseason, but
they're in a weird spot.
Yeah, but generally, I think he's a pretty good, smart GM, a good evaluator of talent. I think what the thought process behind the Babcock hire was that obviously John Tortorella coached in Columbus for a long time. John Tortorella, we are very much getting to know, has a specific style where it's all about accountability. He's a hard-nosed guy. He treats his players. He demands a lot from his players, probably the best way to put it. Then when Torts decided that he kind of run his course at Columbus, they promoted Brad Larson, who was one of his assistants. And when Brad Larson was let go at the end of last season, there was a general feeling among people in that organization that the accountability had sagged after Torts left. And it makes sense. You've spent years under John Tortorella. Now you don't have someone screaming at you every day.
Yes.
You might not work as hard.
My accountability when I leave work and start drinking beer changes because I don't have a boss anymore.
Exactly. So I think the thought process was, okay, we need another hard ass. Let's get Babcock, who's a hard ass. But the difference between Torts and Babcock, and I'm not saying that everybody who plays for Torts likes him. They don't. There are people who
there's a lot who do.
Who can't stand. I think what it is that, and look, I've seen this too. Torts will be very hard on you. He will tell you you suck, and he will tell you why you suck. But you do get the sense that he does actually give a shit about you as a person. Like he was real hard on Tanner Laczynski, real hard on him. And Tanner Laczynski at the start of the season was battling for a spot, whatever. Tanner Laczynski's kid was about to be born, and basically Torts brought him in his office and said, like, this will not hurt you in terms of your place with the team. Go and be there for the birth of your kid. That's the most important thing. And say what you will about Torts, I think that's sincere. I think that, like, he can go completely batshit insane sometimes and lose his mind, and then maybe in retrospect think, like, you know, maybe I shouldn't have told that guy he's a waste of life. But I do think that at his core, he cares about his players. I don't think Mike Babcock, at the very least, the players around the league don't think Mike Babcock cares about his players.
While Torts definitely has a fuse and can just lose it,
yes,
I do think a lot of his antics, or whatever you want to call them, the personality he puts forth, are calculated. It is part of a strategy, and deep down, he does actually care about the players.
Oh, I absolutely think he does. And I think for him, like, when he's hard on guys, he thinks he's being hard on guys because
to get the best out
it's the best for them.
Yes.
And in a weird sort of way, it's like, it shows how much he cares. And I'm not saying it's the best way to do it, but in his head, it's coming from a good place, even if it doesn't seem like it. Whereas the impression I get when I hear former players talk about Babcock is that everything Babcock does is about one person, Mike Babcock. And there just isn't that same voice in the back of your head as a player when you're dealing with Babcock that existed when you're dealing with Torts, where you're like, he doesn't hate me. Whereas Babcock, it's like, it's not even that they think he hates
robot.
him. It's just that they don't think he gives a shit about them.
He's incapable of empathy.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap up real quick. We're about at the 60-minute mark, but just in terms of talking about repeating mistakes, like Babcock, like Atlanta expansion, huh? I mean, it's definitely doable because
it could work.
I will say the first thing I thought when I heard the idea floated that they might be open to trying a third time in Atlanta is, man, does this speak to the power of Steph Driver?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Moves to Atlanta, and suddenly they're going to get a hockey team again. I mean, for hockey fans, man, she's doing it.
It's a market that I think it's a little bit like, and not nearly as big, but it's a little bit like the Phoenix market, where like the NHL doesn't want to give up on it because there is a lot of potential there.
A ton of people live there.
It's a hard market for the NHL to crack for a lot of reasons. Obviously, it's a non-traditional market. And then there's the simple fact that it's not a lily white market, and the NHL is not good at promoting itself to people who aren't white dudes. Honestly. And
why do you think we're here?
Like, if you're,
because the NHL has spoken to us our entire lives.
but seriously, like, if they're going to make that Atlanta market work, and I think it could, they need to do a much better job of community outreach than they did the first few times.
And just an owner who is like interested in making it worse, because making it work. Because like Atlanta wasn't ever last. Like the Thrashers were never last in attendance. It was just like, yeah, we don't even really want to be here.
Yeah,
like that's just kind of what it turned into.
The ownership was terrible.
Yeah, they sold 3 times, I think. Like, they weren't around that long.
It was bad, and that's the thing too, where it's like, look, I'm a huge hockey fan. I've grown up a hockey fan. I love this sport. I think it's a great sport, and I think that anyone can be convinced that hockey is an amazing sport, but you have to actually put the effort in to try to win people
over.
Which
the NHL actually hates doing. They're now criticizing their fans who don't like the digital boards because you might lose the puck. Well, that means you don't know how to watch hockey, and now I'm never going to learn. Thanks a lot.
But that's the thing. Like the NHL on some level, like the NHL wants, in theory, to grow their fan base, but they don't really want it because they still want to have their insular world.
Yes.
And if you're going to succeed in a market like Atlanta, you got to kind of throw open your doors a little bit. If they were to try Atlanta again, I hope, number one, the ownership group would be a lot better. Number two, I hope they would do a lot better job of marketing to the Atlanta market, which is different than the Edmonton market.
All right, Charlie, I think that about does it for our first week here at PHLY Flyers. I want to thank everyone who joined us live, everyone who's tuned in. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button Search PHLY Flyers wherever there are podcasts, and boom, you got us. Content, baby. And make sure you read all Charlie's articles at allphly.com. That'll do it for us. Thank you all for... I did that part already. My name is Bill Matz for Charlie O'Connor. Have a great weekend, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.